Hi guys, let's talk about the best country to live in the world. When people realize that I've lived in 9 different countries, one of the first questions they ask me is, what's the best country you lived in, or what's the best country in the world to live in? And this question is super difficult to answer. I cannot just say, oh, Canada, or Norway, or Sweden. That's not possible. It's not the way it works. So I want to take you to a journey of discovery. At the end of the video, you'll understand perfectly, because if you're looking for a country to live, you want to know what's the best country for you to live in. And I think this is what I've realized. The best country to live in is the country that's the best for you at that precise moment in your life, your goal, your future, what you want for yourself and your kids. And if you go away with only 1 point in this video, I'm going to be more than happy, because I'm going to have done what I need to do to make sure that you choose the best country for yourself now and in the future. All right, let's start. First of all, when I moved to Switzerland, my first country, I was supposed to move there for a long time. I didn't have any kids, so for me, Switzerland at that time from Canada was almost like a parallel move. Okay, it was perfectly fine. Snowy country, peaceful people, speak French, English, perfect for me. Okay, so, and also as a Canadian there, I don't know, it was almost an immediate entry. When people heard me speak French, it attracted attention, and it developed into like fast making friends machine. It's pretty cool. However, my wife became pregnant and we moved to Philippines. Now, Philippines also at that moment became the perfect country, because when my daughter was born, she was born in one of the top hospitals in the world, St. Luke Global in the Philippines, which is an amazing hospital. It's international level hospital, among the top 10 best, at least at the time. And you could get a nanny, what they call a yaya, a nurse for your kid, for super cheap. The apartments were great, everything was good. You know, like the country was perfect for that at that time. Then we moved to Beirut. Now, Beirut is different, okay? I cannot say I love Beirut, don't get me wrong. And actually, to be honest with you, it's still in my list of the top countries to live in for me today. If you're looking for a country that's, that you could have everything you want on the cheap, then Beirut's for you, okay? It's entertaining, people are open-minded, it's like basically living in France, but at a fraction of the price. And when I lived in Beirut, it was in 2013-14, so 6 years before the explosion, and we'll go into that eventually. I'm going to make a video of what's the difference between Beirut then and Beirut today. But still, then we moved to the United States. Okay, the United States is a great country to live in if you have money. So if you can afford healthcare, like the highest level of healthcare with no copay or virtually none, like $15 to go to the doctor and cost you nothing else for almost anything, okay? Just pay your employers manage to pay or whatever, or you have a lot of money to pay the best healthcare, United States is very, very good. Now, the United States is also a bit complex, okay? You have like a lot of polarization. You have like super conservative people on one side and super liberal people on the other. And then you have everything in between. You also have access to a lot of stuff like Costco, Amazon, and everything. Then you go to Home Depot in certain places where people are super friendly and nice and helpful, and other places where it's like 1 star and that's actually overrated, okay? Especially in my area in Westchester, I think the Yonkers Home Depot is the worst in all of America. Yeah, I mean, it depends where you live in the States. So it's a vast country with a lot of people. So you have to determine also where you end up being in order to be able to figure out if it's a great country to live in. But as much as the people are diverse, there's one thing that in the United States you'll have a constant. And this is where I'm going to start talking to you about your everyday life, something that does not accumulate to your psyche, the government and the services around you. Okay, if people are nice, if the government is straightforward, meaning like, for example, you come back to Canada, it doesn't matter if you're an immigrant passing, almost illegally, or if you're a Canadian returning, the laws are the same for everybody.
I have to advise you it's illegal to enter Canada here.
Right now you're under arrest for crossing the border of Canada.
It's illegal to enter Canada here. If you do so, you will be placed under arrest by the police.
But see about a jacket. Some community members trying to help, providing them with warm clothes that they'll need. A man from Russia.
No money, no money.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And this...
Okay, so if you're bringing fruit and vegetables, doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, or whatever, that's it. You're gonna have them taken at the airport, the end. But if you're in Beirut, that's fine. Give a bakshish and you'll pass. Okay, so this is my point. If you have money in certain countries, you're doing good. If you don't, then you're in trouble. Now, if you have a steady flow of money because you have a pension or something, well, check what that pension is. Let's say $1,800 a month, let's say a US soldier retiring. Well, what do you want to do with $1,800 in the United States? Just start to look around. In New York, you'll share an apartment with 3 other people if you want to live there. But in the Philippines, for $1,800 a month, you will have a maid to come every day to clean. If you're elderly, you're going to have a nurse full-time. You're going to have access to the best hospitals for very cheap or very good insurance. You're going to be able to, go around, eat out every single day. You're going to be able to go to cinema and do all kinds of things. Okay, $1,800 in the Philippines is a great amount of money. It's the same in Vietnam. It's not going to turn you into this, oh wow, now I'm a king. But it's pretty good. I'll grant you that, okay? And the place is not bad to live in compared to, not having any money in America. Then I moved to Jamaica. Now, I made a video saying that I'm swearing that I will never return to Jamaica, and I stand by this video. I will never return to Jamaica. There was too many issues. But even Jamaica had very good positive. The school for my daughter was absolutely great, okay? The idea around diplomatic immunity was also extremely well respected. I crossed the border, came back by plane, they never searched my luggage. I drove around at whatever speed, my diplomatic plate, never got me arrested. The people were friendly. Yes, there were risks and stuff, and we had to walk around with a bodyguard in Kingston and blah, 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 and the house was protected by security guard, high fence, and so on. But the house was magnificent at the top of the hill, and the price was definitely reasonable. We had 1 acre of land with a massive pool at the top of the hill, one of the best view in Kingston, Jamaica, and we paid less than a 1-bedroom apartment in New York. Maybe Mexico is good for you. If you don't have that much money, let's say you have your $2,000 a month, or you do videos from home, then you can easily live in Mexico. And these days, with more and more people working from home, like me, for example, I'm doing YouTube videos wherever I am in the world, doesn't matter. The one thing that's the most difficult to figure out, and this is the risk and this is the danger for you, is where are the places that you're going to have the most stable life. And when I moved to Jordan, this is where I realized that that was a problem, because Jordan has nothing to do with the fact that it's a Muslim country. It has to do with the fact that it's a police state where customs, respect nothing. Even as a diplomat, I had my container, literally smashed apart, my car busted, and they couldn't care less whatsoever about that.
Yeah, for my kids. Wow. And then 2 hours just waiting for this one.
It's a country where it's who you know and what you are, not respecting people on average. Everybody smoke everywhere. The government does not respect you in any way, shape, or form. You're gonna go to get something at the government. The guy is just smoking, texting on his iPhone, whatever, and he could not care less that you're standing in front of him waiting. Okay, this is something that in the United States, Canada, or Europe will never happen. Okay, so this is also a big factor that is very difficult to figure out. And when I went to Jordan the first time in 2015, I went there as a tourist and I went to visit Petra, and I just drove around, everything was fine, no issues, and then I flew back out. But living in the country is a completely different beast. And I will say to you, living in a country where every single time you fly in and out, it's complicated. Every single time you go to the government, you're in trouble, okay? Or you're gonna have problems, or you're gonna get screwed, with your tickets or whatever else. You have a car accident, like I had a guy hit me in the back, and the insurance completely refused to pay. This is the kind of issues that you will never have, or virtually never have, in Canada. So that's the reason why, especially we're talking about education, there's a lot of Chinese, and I know tons of them, that abandon a very amazing life in China to be in Canada because they feel that in Canada their kid's gonna have a better education, that they will have more freedom, which is also true, that they can do whatever they want without having Big Brother looking over their shoulders. And I'm gonna make a few videos about living in China because I think it's worth talking about, because I lived in China as well. It's not all that bad. It's starting to get a bit worse in certain areas, but it depends who you are again, okay? So this is another thing you want to consider. In Canada as well, inflation start to impact. Getting an apartment, getting a house start to be more and more expensive. So yes, I would say Canada might be one of the best countries in the world to live in, But now that inflation has started to grip Canada, that right now a foreigner cannot buy a house in Canada, at least they would have to pay a massive amount of tax, and that's a freeze for 2 years and stuff like that. It's complicated. Also, immigrating in Canada takes a long time. That becomes less and less appealing. So this is where I'm saying what you need to figure out right now before you choose what the best country in the world to live in for you is where you are in your life and what you need. Okay, so if for you is to escape the winter, for example, well, check how much it's going to cost you in Florida, and don't be afraid to take a flight to Philippines instead. I understand that maybe you're more comfortable driving 3 days to the US instead of flying a day to a country you've never been in. However, you know, once you pass that hurdle, once you've done it once, after that, you're going to realize that it's not a problem at all. And the thing you have to research as well is how much insurance is going to cost you for medical care, how much you're going to still be tied to your country, because you need to somewhat have a contingency plan. And this is where, of course, when you're a refugee or something like that, I understand that it's more difficult. If you're doing it as an expat or to go work somewhere or just to have a change in your life, then you can consider these things. Now, it also depends who you are, what's your belief or lack thereof. This is another thing too. So for a guy like me, white, heterosexual, you know, atheist, well, maybe living in another country like, you know, Jordan is not a problem at all, okay? Keep your nose out of trouble, no trouble will come to you. And I have this full video on how to live in the Muslim world. That's not a problem. But if I move to maybe Black Africa, it could be a problem. Like I have a friend of mine, he's Black, he's a dentist. He says that he was fed up of being, you know, persecuted, or he was fed up with the racism he had living in Glasgow in the UK. Okay, and he moved to Kingston, Jamaica to open a clinic there. Then he opened a third clinic in Montego Bay and a fourth and a fifth after that. And now he's doing, you know, very, very well in Jamaica. He's Black and he's like, I'm living in a country around Black people and I don't have any problem. I cannot tell what it is to be, you know, living as a Black person in the UK. I don't know how, if it's really like this bad or something. I have no way to judge. I can tell you how it is to be white in Jamaica, how it is to be white in other countries. So this is a thing that you have to figure out as well. Who you are, what your kids are, you know, like what your spouse is. You know, this is also very important. And this is also difficult to determine. Now, another thing you could do, move to the country for a few months, okay? So if I were to live in New York, for example, and I never been and never lived in New York, I would go for 6 months, rent myself a place, stay there for 6 months and figure it out. You know, I did this at 19 years old. In 19 years old, I had this thing in my mind. Again, I'm going to quote Lord of the Rings. Okay, like I drove all the way to Vancouver. I stayed in Vancouver for 6 months and I realized that I was not for me. And I drove back east and I went to Banff, Alberta, and I stayed in Banff for, well, 3 years and a half almost. And that was a killing. That was really for me at the time. But I was a young guy in Banff, almost the sex capital of Canada, you know, fancy free, and, you know, I was doing good money, and it was perfect for me in my early 20s. Today, I wouldn't go back there. Okay, I don't do hiking anymore and mountain climbing and all that stuff, so why would I be there? And I have a kid, and Banff, there's not many school for my kid. So again, that's my point. At that time, it was the perfect place for me. It's not anymore. So that's it, guys. So what do you need to look for? First of all, the ethics in the country, your ability in the country to navigate easily without having any issue with the government or the people around the stores and all that stuff. Because if you don't speak the local language, it's going to be a problem. All these things you have to consider. It piles up on you, trust me, especially when you have to deal with the government and the government is corrupted or there's issues. Your finances. Okay, maybe you're better off in a country that's considered less advanced. However, you can live there like a king rather than be poor in a very rich country where you cannot enjoy any of the benefit. That's another thing. So these are the things that makes, in my opinion, the best country to live in the world for you. Anyway, I hope that was enlightening. Like I said, I've lived in 9 different countries, so that was just my take on it. I hope that was useful, and I see you in the next video.